Thanks,
Hi,
Lazaro.
everyone. Welcome to the 22nd Annual Family Cafe virtual event. My name is Lori Fahey, and I'm the President and CEO of the Family Cafe. Joe, who do we have today?
Thanks, Lori, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the fourth day of our 22nd Annual Family Cafe. Today, we have with us John Finch with Able United. John is going to talk today about how Able accounts can help us save money tax-free without impacting individuals' eligibility. So we're looking forward to this. And by the way, also, if you have questions during this time, please feel free to put them in the comment section on Facebook, and we will see those, and we will ask John those questions as we get toward the end of the hour. So without any further ado, good morning, John. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Joe. Good morning, Lori. Thank you so much for having me on today's Family Cafe presentation on Able accounts.
Sure.
Have at it, John.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully everybody out there is able to watch this. And although we're talking specifically about Florida's Able program, if you're watching from a different state, we'll be able to tie in a lot of information that's applicable to all Able programs. So once again, my name is John Finch. I'm the director of Florida's Able program, Able United, and we're going to talk about just the basics of Able accounts, what they are, and so let's go ahead and get started. But before we really dig into it, I did want to remind everybody, right now, Able United is having an Able at Home campaign. We understand that although we can't be in person, we're actually utilizing this time to gain new skills or to learn or grow while we social distance. And so with that, we wanted to have a competition, a giveaway on our Facebook page. We're giving 3 lucky winners an iPad. Also, individuals who enroll in a new Able account and use Family Cafe or Family 75 promo code during enrollment will not only receive a $75 contribution to their account, but also an exclusive prize pack. So I'll mention this again at the end of the presentation, but just wanted to let you know that this is currently going on, and it's running through the end of this month through June 30th. So check out our Facebook page or ableunited.com for more information. So what are we going to cover on today's topic on Able accounts? We're going to discuss just a little bit of the history of Able and talk about the Able Act. We'll talk about how Able accounts work with government benefits, who's eligible to open and manage an Able account. We'll dig into the specifics of Florida's Able program, Able United. We'll tackle some frequently asked questions, and then we'll have open discussion. So as Joe mentioned, this is a great opportunity as you're listening to ask whatever questions you have on the Facebook page, and we'll answer those towards the end of the presentation. So what is Able accounts? What is the Able Act? And it really starts with this picture here. This is a picture of Jen and her son, Sean. And when Sean was 3 years old, Jen was wondering why wasn't there really a mechanism or a way for her to save funds for her child, for Sean's future, without negatively impacting whatever that future may be, whether he be on government benefits or not, if he's done with school or wanted to continue with school. He really didn't have a tool to utilize and save money to whatever his future may have. And so that kind of sparked this work to pass what soon became the Able Act. And so the Able Act stands for the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, and it was made possible through this passage of the Able Act, and it was the work of Jen and many other parents, hopefully parents like you who are watching today, to say, you know, why isn't there a way to save for my child without negatively impacting them in the future? And so what the Able Act did was it added a new section to the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A. Now this is similar to 529 college savings accounts, where you're saving for higher education, but with an Able account, it's much broader than that. And so what the Able Act did was it allowed states to set up these programs to allow individuals with disabilities and their families to save after-tax dollars to be eventually used either now or in the future to help support health, independence, or quality of life. And so we usually say that these are similar to other products that are out there, whether that be a 529 college savings plan, a checking and savings account, or a special needs trust. So it has some similarities all three of these different types of financial products, but rolled into one. And so here in the state of Florida, we're actually managed by the Florida Prepaid College Board, which oversees the college savings plan and Florida Prepaid plan here in Florida. So it's kind of interesting, the uniqueness of ABLE accounts, and we're going to talk about those specifics. But first, let's talk about who can open an account. So this is Alicia, and she has an ABLE account, wants to save for a wheelchair accessible van in the future. And so she's eligible. Who is exactly eligible to open an ABLE account, specifically an ABLE United account? There's three requirements. One is true for people looking to open an account here in Florida, is that first they have to be a Florida resident. And so that's that time of application. Once you establish the account, you can move out of the state and take the ABLE United account with you. But when you first enroll, you have to be a Florida resident. The next true are true statements for all ABLE programs, regardless of what state you may choose to enroll with. And that's first, you have to have a disability with onset prior to age 26. And basically that means you had to have a diagnosis that the disability occurred prior to age 26. Doesn't matter your age now. We have people that are in their 80s that have an ABLE United account, but their disability occurred prior to age 26. And then the next is you have to have a severe disability, either be on supplemental security income, be receiving Social Security disability insurance. And if you're not receiving that, you have to, what we say is self-certify that you meet the severity requirement. And that basically means that you have a diagnosis from a doctor or a physician saying you have some kind of physical or mental impairment that impacts your daily routines. That's what it means by marked and severe limitations. And what's great is on our website, we actually have a physician's form. So maybe you're unsure if your diagnosis is severe enough. We have a form that you could take to your doctor, discuss, and see if you become eligible. And once again, this is a severe disability, so expect it to last more than 12 months. What also is unique is who owns the ABLE account. The individual with the disability, also known as the beneficiary of the account, is the owner of the account. However, we know not in all situations that the person will be able to manage their own ABLE account, whether it be maybe they're a minor or maybe they just prefer to have somebody assist or open the account on their behalf. And this is very much so you can do this. And this could be a parent, a legal guardian, or a power of attorney. We do require, though, that if you're opening this on behalf of an adult beneficiary, that you just provide the necessary information to substantiate that claim. Basically, we need to verify that you have the authority to open the account on behalf of an adult beneficiary. So that's who can own the account. And we talked about, who is able to have an account, who owns the account, and now we're going to talk about public benefits. And this is Christine. She's one of our brand ambassadors, and she has an ABLE United account. And what's unique with her situation was it was very much she had a situation where she needed to spend down money or be able to save money so she didn't impact her government benefits. And so this is a great tool that allows people to be able to save more than $2,000 and keep their Medicaid or SSI benefits or other types of public benefits. So let's dig into that. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, we'll kind of give a high-level overview of what these types of public benefit programs are. First, let's talk about Medicaid. So Medicaid is a federal and state program that helps with medical costs for some people with limited income and resources or certain types of individuals with disabilities. It's kind of like a state health care plan. We also have here in Florida the Medicaid I-budget waiver. This is the home and community-based waiver that is run through the agency for persons with disabilities. This waiver allows people to basically have a variety of services available to them that is not just more robust than typical health insurance. So that could be living in the community through a group home. This could be adult day training or even some supported employment initiatives. And so that is a public benefit as well that has a resource limit. Both Medicaid and the I-budget waiver restrict you to only having about $2,000 in assets or $2,000 in resource. So that's not a lot of money to have in the bank in case you have some kind of emergency. But the great thing is that money in an ABLE account or even money taken out of the ABLE account are generally disregarded with determining eligibility for Medicaid. So they're really not looking at what's in an ABLE account, which is a great benefit for people that are receiving those type of Medicaid services or may be eligible in the future for those types of services. Here in Florida, we recently passed some laws to clarify that Medicaid may not file a claim on an ABLE account if a beneficiary passes away. So that's not true in every state. When this first passed, there was some broad language that allowed Medicaid to make a claim on an ABLE account if a beneficiary passed away, and that's no longer allowed here in Florida. Instead, if there's any leftover funds after all outstanding qualified disability expenses are paid, including funeral and burial, any of those leftover funds would go to that beneficiary's estate. So it's just, it's a different type of subject now where you're thinking of, if I have a child with a disability or myself, I might have an ABLE account. If what's going to happen to it when I pass away? What's the plan I want to do or have in place for these funds? And so it's definitely a different topic when you start thinking of now people have the abilities to actually have assets and resources. And so it's always good to plan on what you want to do with that. The other big program that we see a lot of people with that take advantage of that have an ABLE account, and it's about 40% of the people that we serve have a supplemental security income. And so SSI is another needs-based resource that provides a cash benefit, a monthly cash benefit to help pay for food, clothing, and shelter. That's roughly $771 a month here in the state of Florida. But once again, that restricts how much cash you can have on hand, about $2,000 in assets. The great thing is now you can have an ABLE account and save much more than $2,000. And so generally funds withdrawn from an ABLE account are disregarded when determining eligibility for supplemental security income. Now, there are some additional rules which we'll cover, but we always encourage people, hey, if you're on SSI and you have an ABLE account, definitely check out what they call the POMS manual, the Social Security Program Operation Manual System. This gives you a really deep dive on how Social Security Administration reviews ABLE accounts and specifically people on SSI. So the two big rules to remember is that the first $100,000 in an ABLE account does not count as a resource. So if you're able to save that much, that's great. It's just important to know once you hit $100,000, anything above that would count as a resource for SSI purposes only. So that's a good thing to know. Also, if you're using an ABLE account to pay for housing-related expenses, or you decide to take a withdrawal and use it for a non-qualified disability expense, for example, gambling, Social Security could count that as a resource at the beginning of the next month. So that's just important to know. Hey, if you're using your ABLE account, and we'll actually have an example on the next slide that talks about the housing, but it's just important to know if you're using an ABLE account to pay for housing, just have the ABLE account pay it directly. Once again, we submit data, part of our contract or part of the requirement for having an ABLE program. The state must submit to Social Security on a monthly basis all program transactions. So if you're on SSI and you have an ABLE account, they will be made aware that you have an ABLE account and whatever transactions take place. So important to know to keep receipts and be able to explain why that expense is a qualified disability expense. Social Security would ask if you're on SSI. And here's that example I was talking about. So this is Amy, for example. Let's say she has an ABLE account, wants to pay for her rent. She takes $500 out of her ABLE account in May to pay for a housing expense in June. Well, she takes that money out in May, deposits it into her checking account, and then withdraws it out in June for housing-related expenses, in this example, to pay her landlord. That $500 would count as a resource at the beginning of June. So it could count towards that $2,000 limit, and it could impact her SSI for that month. So it's just important to know if you're on SSI and you're using this for housing, to either have an ABLE account pay that directly or withdraw and pay it in the same month. And this is a great way to allow families and other individuals to assist somebody on SSI without negatively impacting their SSI payment, which is a great way to do that. So it's an important way, important example on how you can use your ABLE account and still pay for housing-related expenses. With that, we're going to move on. So we talked about public benefits, who's eligible, who can own an ABLE account, who can manage it. Now we're going to talk about how the ABLE account works, and this is pretty unique on the process of how you go into enrolling in an account, and then what that process looks like. And this is Latasha Bird and her daughter Cairo is ABLE accounts, and it's just amazing to meet some of these people in person who have ABLE United accounts and how they're saving for whatever the future may hold. So let's talk about the enrollment process. And so this is basically a very high-level checklist of the items you will need when you go to enroll in an ABLE United account. First, you're going to have the date of birth, an address, a permanent address of where that person lives, social security number for the individual, for the beneficiary. If somebody else is opening up the account on their behalf, we're going to need that account administrator's information as well. If you are opening this on behalf of an adult beneficiary, please provide the necessary documentation. You're going to be required to submit that, either a power of attorney, legal guardianship papers. And if you don't have that available, we do have a power of attorney form on our website that you can use that will allow you to have the necessary documentation to open this account on behalf of an adult beneficiary. Also, you need banking information, either checking or savings. You can either use your login credentials to tie that bank account to it, or you can manually enter your checking or savings and a routing number. And you have to have a minimum $25 contribution to kind of link that account to that bank account to be able to select your investment options, which are all part of the requirements. So it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to enroll. So it's great, kind of a laundry list of things you need to have readily available when you start the process. And something I didn't mention is this is done all online. So you go to ableunited.com. That's where you would open the account, establish the account, and then manage the account. You could all do it online on our website. So we don't have a bank or a location you could go to enroll in this in person. It's something you have to do over the computer, or we have a paper application on our website as well. So let's say you get to the enrollment part, you've entered your information on who you are, you answered some basic information about your background. Well, you're going to get to a part where you're going to be able to contribute and actually invest or save the money, really up to you. And so we have various options. We have 3 pre-designed portfolio options to meet the needs of most investors. And so this basically is based on your risk tolerance, either conservative, moderate, or growth. But maybe you're a little more financial savvy, or maybe you want to have use this as strictly as a savings account. You have that ability to do that. And so we have some individual options you can choose from, like a money market account, a FDIC option that's through BNY Mellon, or you can have a U.S. stock, U.S. bond option through Vanguard, and a BlackRock option through International Stock Fund option. And so we usually tell people, when you're opening up an ABLE account and you're just starting to use it for the first time, you got to get in that mindset of what is the purpose of establishing the ABLE account? Are you using this for long-term savings? Are you using this for short-term savings or investing? It's really up to you. And the thing is, you can do both. And so it's just good to have kind of a plan in place on how you want to utilize your ABLE United account and make it work for you. Also, money that's already in the account. So let's say, you have all your money in the U.S. stock option and you want to move it to one of the other options, you can do that, but you are limited to redirect invested funds twice a year. Any new money coming in, you can choose whatever option you want. And actually, when you take the money out, you can also choose which options that money is withdrawn from. So that's just an important thing to know as well. And so talking about contributions, the great thing is, and what I really love about ABLE United accounts that makes them unique, is that anybody can contribute to an ABLE account. So the beneficiary can put their own money in it, mom and dad can put money in it, grandparents, friends, relatives, even organizations. So think of a church, a synagogue, or some other type of nonprofit organization are able to give funds and put funds into the ABLE account and it not count as income towards the individual. So that's a great way to utilize that ABLE United account. So contributions are considered completed gifts, so they're not income towards the individual. And there's just some other considerations to think of when you're contributing. There is a maximum amount, maximum contribution limit of $15,000 per calendar year, and that's from all sources. So the beneficiary puts in $10,000 and mom and dad put in $5,000, that account cannot receive any more additional contributions for the rest of the calendar year. Now, there is an exception to that, and that's beneficiaries who are working and not saving for retirement. There's a piece of legislation that passed called the Able to Work. It allows beneficiaries to save above that $15,000 if they're not saving for retirement, and they can and you can do that when you make a contribution. Select, is it a typical contribution or a regular contribution, or is it an able work contribution? It explains what those differences are as well. Other ways you can contribute or types of funds that can go into this account is there's an opportunity to roll over 529 college savings plan from just about anybody that's a family member. So maybe a brother or a cousin or a mom and dad have leftover funds in a college savings plan. They can actually roll those funds over to an ABLE account. So it's a great opportunity to have additional resources be put into an ABLE account. And there's one caveat to notice that individuals who are putting in earned income, that money still counts as earned income. So ABLE accounts don't shelter earned income. They shelter basically gifts and unearned income. Another thing to notice as well is that funds are put in for sometimes in unearned instances. For example, let's say you have child support or you receive some type of settlement. If that money is put into an ABLE account, it's still applicable for IRS purposes or Social Security purposes. That might count as income still. So it's just important to know if you're using this account to put earned income, how it could still count. Also, one thing to note is there is no federal income tax deduction for contributing to an ABLE account, so you're not able to contribute to somebody's ABLE account and write this off on your taxes. But one thing we did launch that makes this really exciting is we have a gifting page now that is unique to each individual. And so when somebody sets up an ABLE account, they can set up a savings goal of what they want to do with the account and kind of what their goal is for each year. But they can also launch a gifting page. So this is kind of an example of what it would look like. But when you enroll, you have that option to create it. And you'll get a customized link that you can share on social media like Facebook. You can share it through an email or however you want. And it allows people to contribute online through either ACH or a debit card, a contribution into your account. So it's a great way to start thinking of maybe have family and friends that want to contribute, and you can share this link to them and allow them to do that online. So it's pretty fun. It's kind of like a little GoFundMe page. All right, so let's talk about taking the money out. So you have money in the account. It's time you want to actually utilize those funds, and so you want to get the money out. So how you do that? Once again, it's all online. So you would go to ableunited.com, log into your account, and you can make a transfer back to that connected bank account. As we described, when you go through the enrollment process, you can put money back into that bank account. You can request a check. And we just launched an optional Visa prepaid card, an Able Visa prepaid card through TrueLink. And what this allows you to do is you can put money onto that Visa card and use anywhere Visa debit cards are accepted. Also, some considerations to consider when you're taking money out of the Able account is that generally, if there's any earnings, they're generally tax-free as long as they're used for qualified disability expenses. And we'll talk a little bit about more what those qualified disability expenses here on the next slide. Also, you get to choose how you want that withdrawal to take place, which investment you want that money to be taken out of. So, for example, if you're saving and investing, you can maybe take the money out of the FDIC option, but you have that option. It's up to you. And then also, we always recommend if you're taking money out of the Able account to keep the necessary documentation for the IRS or SSA, because these are IRS sanctioned accounts, so you will get tax documents at the end of the year that you need to hold on for your records. And so you just be wary that you might receive some tax documentation, or Social Security Administration, if you're on SSI, would want to know what these withdrawals are used for. So Able accounts offer a great way to save money and also to be used for a variety of reasons. And we call these types of expenses that you can use Able accounts for, we call them qualified disability expenses. and it's very broad, so broad that really the only example the Treasury gave us was, let's say you have somebody with autism that needed help navigating the community or communicating. Well, a cell phone and a cell phone device and a cell phone plan would be considered a qualified disability expense, so it could be used to pay that monthly cell phone bill. But they also provided some very broad type categories. So basic living expenses like groceries or clothing, that would be a qualified disability expense. Anything that housing related, doctor's appointments, assistive technology, and the list goes on, education, transportation, even job coaching or legal services. And so usually I tell people, it's hard to think of what is a non-qualified disability expense. And it's really, as long as it relates to that person with the disability and helps improve their health, independence, or quality of life, then it's a qualified disability expense. So that could be moving expenses. It could be filling up the gas tank to get to work. Usually I tell people, as long as you don't give the money away, you're not using it to purchase alcohol, tobacco, or anything illegal, then most likely it's going to be a qualified disability expense. So which is great, because then there's no taxes on any of those earnings from that withdrawal. So it's just a great way to show that how these accounts can be utilized for a lot of different things. With all this in mind, you get to a point where it's like, okay, this sounds like a great program. Too good to be true, John. Tell me, this has got to be a very expensive thing to set up. And the great thing is no. We try to here as Florida's ABLE program, we're trying to make this the most affordable and best value for Floridians to be able to just open the account, try it out, and see if it's right for them. And so with that, there is no application fee. Once again, this is done online, so there is no fee to register or to enroll in the account. We don't have a monthly maintenance account fee, which is going to be different based on the different types of ABLE programs, where they can range up to $50 to $60 annually. Here in Florida, we don't have that monthly fee. There is a minimum contribution of $25, but once again, that's your $25, and so you can get that money out as you needed. We do have some optional fees. So, for example, if you wanted paper statements instead of the online PDF statement, you would have to pay $10 annually for that statement. But that's an optional fee. You can just stick with everything online and get your online statements, and there's no fee. We also, I mentioned that ABLE Visa prepaid card, which allows you to basically go anywhere that Visa accepts or anywhere that accepts the Visa debit cards. There is a small monthly maintenance fee of $2.50 to have that card, but it gives you that additional flexibility. And maybe for parents who have a child or even an older adult that you want to give them some flexibility on how they use their ABLE account, that Visa card is a great option. And we just launched that in February, so a great opportunity to do that. And then also our investments, they do have a small fee tied to them that's net of performance. So when you review the performance on your account or on our website, just know that this investment administration fee is taken out of that performance. Important to note that our FDIC option, there is no fees tied to that. So you can actually set this account for completely free and manage the account online and not have to pay any types of fees. So those are the costs associated with running and managing an ABLE account. With that in mind, I know we're going pretty quick here. I'm 30 minutes in, but I would love to kind of switch and start looking at questions and have the Family Cafe team prepare any kind of questions they have. But I'll tackle some of the frequently asked questions we receive quite a bit, because this is a lot of information to digest, and people are still trying to. This is the first time you've heard about ABLE account. It is a lot to take in. But here are the top frequently asked questions we get. And the number one we always receive this question is, I've heard of special needs trust. I already have a special needs trust. Is this similar to a special needs trust, or does this replace a special needs trust? And I usually tell people yes and no. Everybody has a unique situation. And so the situation you're in, you may or may not use an ABLE account along with the special needs trust, or this might be a replacement for a special needs trust. We usually tell people it's an additional tool in your financial tool belt. So when you're thinking of planning or special needs planning is very broad. And so ABLE is one of those items to discuss and see how it can work. The great thing is that an ABLE account can receive funds from a third-party special needs trust. So something that's been established and already funded through maybe a life insurance policy, money from that special needs trust can be directed over to an ABLE account, which is a great way to allow flexibility on how those people use their special needs trust. But once again, special needs trusts are a little more, there's a lot more to it. It requires an attorney to set up. They have to be overseen by a trustee that can be pretty expensive to set up, but they also hold non-cash assets, and you can contribute a lot more to them than $15,000 per year. ABLE is online. A lot of times special needs trusts are not online. It's something you have to do in person. So just high level, I tell people, ABLE accounts often work in conjunction with third-party special needs trusts, but always seek a financial professional or a legal professional on what's best for your scenario if you don't know an ABLE account is right for you or not. Other types of questions we often receive is, who owns the ABLE United account? And what's great about this program, what's great is that it's the person with the disability, that beneficiary is the owner of the ABLE account. It's their money. They're going to be able to use it how they see fit. But we always know that somebody else can manage that account on their behalf. And so you have that flexibility to do that. Another frequently question, and we kind of answer this during the contributions page, is can the individual, the beneficiary, put their own money in the ABLE United account? And the great answer is yes. They can put their money. They can put their money in the account. Family and friends can put money in the account. Anybody can contribute to the ABLE account up to $15,000 per year. So it's just a great way, a great tool to allow people to provide assistance without negatively impacting them. Let's talk about what if you move out of the state? So as we stated during the eligibility requirements, is that when you open and establish an ABLE United account, you have to be a Florida resident, and that's at the time of application. After that, you can move out of the state, take the account with you since it's done all online. But maybe you're either out of the state already and you're watching this, or maybe you decide to move out of the state. There are just about 47 different programs out there. 31 states have set these up. And so we usually encourage people to check out what that state's ABLE program is and see if there's unique benefits for being taking part of that state-run program for the state you're in. Just as Florida's ABLE United program provides the best value for Florida residents, the Georgia program might be the best for Georgia, or the Virginia program for Virginia. So always check that out. If you're unsure, there's a couple resources out there that kind of shows you all the programs. ABLE NRC is one. The NAST website, that's NAST, they provide a breakdown of all the ABLE programs, so that's a great way another tool as well. Going on to the next frequently asked question we receive is, I have funds, I invested in an account, how often can I move money around that's already into the account? And federal law, it's a federal law requirement, only allows 2 investment fund changes per calendar year. But the great thing is you can put money in and choose a different option at any time. But those funds that are already invested are limited on how often they can move. But with that, I mean, Lori, I know that was, and that was pretty fast, you and Joe. But hopefully you've gotten a lot of questions on your Facebook page. But I want to open this time to whatever questions might have come through and before I wrap things up.
We do have several questions. John, tell us real quick, how does the ABLE account work with the special needs trust?
Yeah, that's great. And we kind of tackled that a little bit. And so what's unique is when you establish an ABLE account, if you already have a special needs trust set up, I would work with that attorney to make sure that you have the necessary language to allow distributions from that special needs trust to go to the ABLE account. That's important to know. What's unique, though, is if you have a first-person special needs trust, so that is somebody who might have received an unplanned inheritance, somebody that had a personal injury award, or maybe they won the lottery, but they wanted to keep their Medicaid or SSI benefits. might have what they call first-party special needs trust, and those are limited on how you utilize them with an ABLE account. Those types of trusts can't be funded, can't fund an ABLE account. However, a third-party special needs trust can be used to fund an ABLE account. And so also ABLE accounts, we talked about the limitations on how much can go on there on an annual basis, $15,000 per year. And then also, think about special needs trust when you think of estate planning is a lot more than just, I want to put in $100 a month. It's more of preparing. So if I ever pass away as an adult of a child who has a disability, is you're making the necessary steps to prepare if you pass away. So life insurance policy, homes, vehicles, stuff that's not really liquid. That's what a special needs trust does. It allows you to set up a program in a way that if something happens to you, that your child is still taken care of. And so ABLE accounts are a little bit different. It's kind of I tell people ABLE accounts are the here and now. If I want to start putting in $50 a month to save for whatever the future may be, an ABLE account might be right for you. So that's kind of the high level what some of the differences are.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, let's get to some of the other questions as well. So somebody asked this on Facebook, is there a Medicaid payback after the beneficiary dies?
Great question. And so there's no longer here in the state of Florida a Medicaid payback on an ABLE account. Instead, if the beneficiary passes away, any money left over after all outstanding qualified disability expenses are paid. So, for example, let's say they had a mortgage payment. So any money left over in an ABLE account can be used to pay down that mortgage. If they had leftover cell phone bills or attorney bills or even funeral and burial, which, today can cost $10,000, $15,000 or more. And so once all those qualified disability expenses paid, if there's any funds left in the ABLE account, they would be passed on to the estate of the beneficiary, and that would either go through probate or whatever the situation may be, which is unique to that individual. There is something called Medicaid recovery on estate or estate Medicaid recovery, and that's a unique Medicaid recovery where, if the beneficiary is 55 or older, they have no spouse, and they don't have any survivor children with disability, that the state may make a claim on the estate. So it depends on your unique situation. But no, there is not a direct Medicaid payback on an ABLE account here in the state of Florida.
Okay, thank you. How about this one? My son has autism and is receiving SSI through his father's disability. Can we use this for an ABLE account?
Yeah, that is a great question. And so usually when you think of Social Security, there's kind of two programs. You have the supplemental security income, which is, based on certain eligibility requirements. And then we have something where if you're employed, you pay into what they call survivor benefits. And so that's where that Social Security disability insurance comes in, or survivor benefits. And this is based on somebody's work history. And so in this situation, her son is receiving something based on the father's work history. So he's kind of paid in already to the system. So yeah, you can use any funds from that SSDI to fund an ABLE account. He's automatically eligible because he's on SSDI for an ABLE account. What's unique in that situation, and it might not apply to hers, is that usually we see a lot of people who are on SSDI or these survivor benefits are also on Medicaid benefits. And that's where the issue comes in, because Medicaid only lets you have $2,000 in resources. Well, if you're on SSDI, you might be getting $1,200, $1,400 a month, and you can be easily hitting that $2,000 resource limit frequently. And so an ABLE account is a great way to, instead of spending down below $2,000, you could dump any excess funds into the ABLE account and still maintain eligibility for Medicaid. So, but very much, going to her question, very much you can use funds from an SSDI to fund an ABLE account.
Excellent. How about this? Can I contribute money from an inheritance?
Yeah, we've seen that before. We've seen inheritance. It's important to know that, I'm not an attorney, so this is not legal advice, but depending on how that inheritance is written, it could count as income towards the individual. So it's just important to plan for that out. But yeah, it can receive an inheritance, but it's important to know it is limited to $15,000 per year. So if the inheritance is, $40,000, let's say, well, you can put in $15,000 into the ABLE account, but be still left over with $25,000. So what are you going to do with that $25,000? You could purchase a car or put a down payment on a home or something like that. But yes, you could put money from an inheritance into an ABLE account.
Excellent. So, John, a couple of people have asked about qualifying diagnoses. So I'm going to read you two questions here. It says, how can I find the list for qualifying disability diagnoses? And then we had another one, does ADHD qualify me for an ABLE account? Can you just go in a little bit more about diagnoses?
Yeah, would love to. So what's interesting is these are IRS accounts. And so when they came out, they basically said, okay, we're going to categorize all disabilities into 7 broad groups. And so with that, they included intellectual, developmental, nervous, psychiatric, respiratory, other, and there's another one as well. And so with that, they kind of broken down and given some examples. So congenital anomalies, so Down syndrome, for example, would qualify. Cerebral palsy would qualify. And they actually did mention ADHD, autism, but they have a caveat that it has to be severe. And so I usually tell people, if you're on government benefits, great, you qualify. If you're not, what does severe mean? And so we have a physician diagnosis form that they can take to their doctor that basically says, yes, they have a marked and severe functional limitations, but it points back to Social Security. And so usually I tell people, if it's something where they have to be on medication, or if it's something that impacts their daily routines, maybe they need additional doctor's appointments, most likely they're going to qualify for an ABLE account, because that is severe enough to where they need these additional resources or additional appointments in order to manage their type of disability. So autism, that's a qualifier. ADHD, I would say it depends on just the severity of the ADHD.
Gotcha. Thanks. How about this one? I want to buy a home. Can I withdraw my full account balance for the down payment? Would that be a qualifying withdrawal?
Yeah, that is an awesome question. And so I remember when we first launched, and this was at Family Cafe probably, I would say 4 years ago. So we launched July 1, 2016, and we went to Family Cafe in June, so it was right before we launched. And I remember sitting down with a gentleman, and he said, he would love to be able to use this account to save the purchase for a home or a townhome, whether that be, his retirement dream or whatever it was. But, and he was like, well, I can only, save up to $100,000. And I said, no. The great thing is an ABLE account, you can, here in Florida, you can save up to $415,000 before you're cut off on contributing to it, which is quite a bit of money. Of course, at $15,000 a year, it could take you 20 plus years to get to that amount. But if you're on SSI, you are kind of limited to about $100,000 in savings. But the great thing is you want to purchase that house, you can use your entire ABLE account balance. You could, say, I want this check to go pay for this housing, and I'm going to close it afterwards, or you can take a portion of it. But no, housing, a down payment on a home, or a full purchase of a home with an ABLE account is acceptable. I know one of the biggest qualified disability expenses I've had an opportunity to witness and see happen was a friend of mine who has an ABLE account put a down payment on a car. And so he was able to save up, $4,000 or $5,000 and put a down payment on a car with his ABLE account. So that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, housing, saving over multiple years and using the entire account balance to pay for a house is very much an allowable qualified disability expense.
Great, thank you. So somebody was asking here also about if it's possible to talk to somebody in person. How can I find someone in my county to talk to about an ABLE account in person? Is that possible, or what should they do?
Yeah, great question. And so on our website, we actually have an events calendar that is quite empty now because we were trying to do a lot of events. So Family Cafe would be a great example of where we would have been in person and would have been able to talk people face to face. But the way the program is run, it's all online. But with that, we have a very robust call center that is available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern time. And you can go on there, you can ask you can call them, get your questions answered. If you have an account already and have specific questions, you can share your screen and they'll be able to help you with issues. We also have live chat on our website and a Facebook page as well, where you can go on and ask questions. And so those are your best ways to get a hold of us, is to call our customer service, in which we'll have the numbers at the end of the slide, or visit our website. But those are the best ways to contact us. When hopefully COVID and things start to become a little more normal, and we have the ability to travel again and start participating in these events, definitely check out our website for an event calendar, where you'll be able to see maybe there's an opportunity that will be in your hometown, and you could come out and talk to us at one of these events.
Gotcha. How about this one? We have an existing ABLE account. Can we create a gifting page now or only at the time of enrollment?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so you can create the gifting page anytime. What's going to happen is once you enroll in the account and you go to log into your account, you kind of get that home screen we all see. If you have a checking or savings account, you kind of get that home screen and kind of gives you some different options. For Able United, when you first log in, on the bottom right, there's going to be a little square that says gifting page. On there, you can click that and to establish your gifting page. So that can be done at any time, whether it be at enrollment or post-enrollment later down the road. Whenever you're ready, you're able to open that gifting page, and then you can also close it too. So that's how you would manage it all online.
Gotcha. All right, we got about 6 or 7 questions here. So if an account is established by a guardian or someone with power of attorney, does the individual with a disability have direct access to the account?
Oh, good question. So the whole purpose of ABLE accounts was to allow a beneficiary to own additional assets and resources. And as I mentioned in the question, she said, what if a power of attorney or a guardian opens the account? Can the beneficiary still access their account? It's yes or no. So if they called customer service, for example, and they said, here's my name, date of birth, social, the customer service rep could be able to give them some information. When it comes to actually logging into the account, we currently only have one set of login credentials. So if a power of attorney or a guardian opened the account, they would use a unique email and a unique password. And unless they shared that to the beneficiary, they wouldn't really be able to access the account. Now, in the future, I would love to be able to say, well, we could have limited access online for a beneficiary or something to give them a little more flexibility. But really, in that situation, the only access a beneficiary would have is if they call customer service to talk about their account. Any transactions on the account would still be limited as well.
Great. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyways. Is the ABLE account federally insured?
So we have different savings and investment options, and depending on how you utilize the account, may or may not apply. So we do have an FDIC product that is a savings account, very low return, but it does have that FDIC insurance. So if Bank of New York Mellon ever went bankrupt, that you could get some assurance from the federal government on the FDIC option. But all the other investment options are investment options. So you think of a Vanguard or a BlackRock. Depending on the market situation and what's going on, it may grow or it may lose funds. So it's just important to know how you invest, but we do have a FDIC option available.
Gotcha. John, is there a spendthrift provision in ABLE account agreements?
That's a good question. I do not know the technicalities and what you mean by spendthrift, so I would have to get back to that person.
Absolutely. So here's a scenario that somebody sort of laid out, and this is Florida specific. A person with an ABLE account over 55, no spouse, beneficiary is the brother. If the person passes away, would the Florida Medicaid estate payback apply and take the money going to the brother?
So I'm assuming the beneficiary is the brother who's 55 or older.
Yeah, over
I'm
55.
assuming in this situation.
Yeah, no spouse. Beneficiary is the brother. A person.
Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah. So. So how that would work is, first of all, that brother, after all outstanding qualified disability expenses are paid. So, for example, let's say you had funeral and burial costs of $10,000. Maybe they had some housing and other types of outstanding bills that were $3,000 to $4,000, including any housing that was due. So let's say that's $15,000, and let's say you get $20,000 left over in the account. And this is all hypothetical, of course. And so you have $5,000 left. What that would happen is it would go to the estate of that brother. And so if the estate is open, there's usually a process to go through, but depending on the ramifications. So in the example, if they didn't have a spouse or any children with disabilities, the state may make a claim on that estate, which would encompass the ABLE account. It could encompass vehicles or houses or whatever type of assets they had, and depending on how much Medicaid recovery there is. And so, so I always tell people, when you have an ABLE account, it's to think about, what is the purpose of it, and then how much money is going to go in it, and what's the long-term goal. Some attorneys I've heard say, I want to let my ABLE account go over 20, 30,000. Some people are like, I want this to be my retirement account. So it's just really unique on how you use the ABLE United account and the flexibility it offers to those individuals. So, but that specific situation, it really depends on what other assets and how much Medicaid recovery there was for that brother.
Gotcha. All right, so we just have two more questions here.
Yep.
Can a monthly pension benefit be directed to an ABLE account?
Yeah, so we, when it comes to direct payments to an ABLE account, we have some very limited forms on our website. So for example, let's say you had an employer, you wanted to direct deposit part of your paycheck into an ABLE account, we have that capability. When it comes to other types of direct deposits, you usually have to work with wherever that money's coming from to direct it to the ABLE account. So in that situation, you would have to work wherever that pension's coming from to direct them to deposit it into the ABLE account. And so in most situations, it would be them cutting a check to a PO box with an ABLE account number, so we could tie it back to the ABLE United account. And so that's how generally that would work for any type of direct deposits.
Great. Wow. Okay, last question, John. If you can roll over another family member's, over another family member's 529 plan into the ABLE account, how does that work if the amount in the other account is more than $15,000? It exceeds 15. Yep.
Great question. Great question. We saw this a lot with people who were planning for college savings for their child and then might have been in an accident and severe traumatic brain injury or some other type of disability prevented them from continuing on with college. And so now they have these leftover funds in a college savings plan. And so what's unique is it can be a brother, it could be a sister, it could be themselves can roll over that college savings plan into an ABLE account. We have forms on our website to allow you to do that, but it does have the limit of $15,000 per year. So we've seen situations where, let's say you had $25,000 in a 529 college savings plan, you would contribute $15,000 this calendar year, and then the next calendar year contribute the other $10,000. So it is still limited to that $15,000 provision. You just have to do it over multiple years.
Has to take a little longer. Okay. Yep. Well, listen, John, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I appreciate you answering all of those questions. And as always, there is your information on the screen, and you can find you through our Facebook page, and also as part of our booklet from the cafe. So, John, thank you so much, and I want to thank everybody who joined us today. I want to remind everyone that at 2 o'clock. We will have another session today, and that is Accessible Travel 101, how to explore the world with a disability. And so that will begin at 2 o'clock today.
Oh, thank you all for joining us.
And can we just real quick, if you haven't sent in your PIN card or your report card, please do. We have a gift while supplies last, and supplies are still lasting.
Supplies are lasting. Yes. Make sure you give us your address so we'll know where to mail your surprise to.
Great. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing everybody at 2 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.